When you almost witness a massacre. I worked in a busy but dangerous area. There are just too many streets where local criminals can ambush pedestrians, mug them, and effectively run into hiding. One day, I worked until 7 p.m. and my fiance picked me up. The streets were already deserted, so we decided to find a safe spot and call an Uber. We quickly found two men watching the entrance of a store. One of them was a doorman in uniform, while the other one was wearing regular clothes and speaking into a walkie-talkie. So far, just regular stuff. The second guy and I had some small talk about how dangerous the area was, after which we all went silent. The Uber was taking some time, so he eventually asked if I was sure it was coming. I checked and confirmed. He decided to explain his curiosity. Well, today will be a especially dangerous day. We want to do something about these lowlives. As a cop, I find it distasteful. I immediately hid the shiver that came down my spine. Vigilante death squads are a big deal in Brazil, and a word to the wise is enough. I took a deep breath and played dumb to be sure. Are you a civilian or a military cop? He smirked and answered, today I'm neither. More or less after a very long minute, the driver arrived. We said goodbye and left. On the following day, I saw almost no homeless people in the area. I knew why they didn't want to be seen there. Nothing ever appeared on the news. Girl crawling on a driveway as we drove by. My boyfriend was driving me home last night around midnight. I was on my phone pulling up something to show him when we parked, when he whipped around and asked me if I saw that out his window. I said no and asked what. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. We have some deer and other small wildlife. The most dramatic human activity was several years back when a car was speeding and crashed through the living room of a house at the bottom of the hill. He said there was a girl on all fours in a driveway, waving her hand and phone light at us as we drove by. We slowed down to discuss if we should go back. Was she hurt or in trouble? Trying to flag help for someone inside, or filming a TikTok. I was worried this was some ploy to make us stop so someone else could jump out. We both thought it was weird and decided to go back in case she needed help. Our windows had been down to get some fresh night air, so we rolled them up when we went back. When we went back, she was no longer on the ground and ran up to my window very quickly. She looked like she was in PJs and was in her teens. My boyfriend went nope, swerved around her and drove out of the neighborhood as another car was driving in and passed by her. We were both pretty rattled at this point because it was so unusual and decided that we'd do another loop back. This was the only way into the neighborhood, so we didn't really have a choice. If she was still there after the other car had driven by, he would talk to her since she'd be on his side again. We drove back and she was just standing in the middle of her driveway, waving her arms with her phone light again. He slowed down with his window down and asked her if everything was alright. She said yes and started running at the car again, almost in front of another vehicle driving by. We were a bit at a loss and very uneasy about the whole thing, but figured there was nothing else we should do at that point. She said she was fine and had a phone to call 911 if something was going on. He dropped me off and said she wasn't there when he drove back out, so I have no idea what that was all about, but I found it very unnerving. Weird coworker makes duck noises at me. One of my friends who also works there mentioned that he was a little odd. The first time he met her, he said, yeah, I'm a weirdo. She just thought it was a bit random and yeah, weird. Anyways, he doesn't drive, so he gets rides to work. He will be there early, and instead of sitting in the lobby to wait for his shift to start, which everyone does typically when they are waiting, he kind of hovers in the back for an hour or more. That in itself isn't too on the surface, right? Well, he's made a few comments that really just made me feel a bit odd. I was pushing a cart around the corner and politely said, excuse me, as I moved past him. I'm a higher pitched voice. He goes, hit me, run me over, please. I was just like, Okay then. Now he does this all the time and makes comments like that. Every time I come around a corner or he comes into my area in the back, he looks at me and makes a sort of quack or weird noise I don't even know how to describe. It's very odd. Recently, I saw him do a sort of tap gesture to one of our coworkers' arms, and then when the coworker asked what he was doing, he said, "Shanking you." The other day, he had a scraping tool and was sort of slicing the air and looked at me and said, "I'm cutting someone," or something like that. I didn't even know how to respond to that, so I just turned and walked away. He just makes me so uncomfortable, and he will constantly do these things and then hover or just stare when I'm doing my job. It's not all directed specifically at me, but I haven't seen him quacking at anyone else. It gives me John Wayne Gacy vibe a little bit. I've mentioned this behavior to my general manager, and he thinks it's odd but hasn't done anything about it really.